all about growing your leadership and multiplying your influence in business, ministry, and life. Our mission is simple. We're just crazy about turning your potential into purpose and growing your influence. And now, your host, Obed Martinez.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Life and Leadership. It is Motivational Monday, and I'm excited about this week. Listen, you cannot conquer what you're unable to confront. And God has already destined this week. He's put all his blessings into it, and all he needs you to do is to show up. But not just to show up, but show up with the right attitude. Well, welcome to Life and Leadership. My name is Obed Martinez. Love being your host. Love starting the week with you. And my friends, today, our podcast is brought to you by Chicago Title. I love their slogan. It says, "See you on the next transaction." That is Christian and Shayna Bailey. What a great company they're running. Great people, love Jesus and love people. Well, hey, today I want to talk to you about something that I really believe leaders need to understand, and that is, how can we lead with questions? Most of the time, leaders want to lead with answers, but great leaders know how to lead with questions. Tina Seelig says this. She says, questions are the frames into which the answers fall. Questions are the frames into which the answers fall. And what I believe is very important, that if you're going to create a great culture within your organization, whatever you're leading or whatever you're a part of, is that you invite people to ask questions. I'll never forget talking to a leader one time, and he says, "Obed, I love the fact that, you just got done talking to us about having this culture of asking questions. And I know what you're wanting to accomplish. I could see where you're wanting to go. But just to be honest, man, I'm a little nervous about that." And I said, "What are you nervous about?" He says, "Well, I'm just nervous that they're going to question me." And I'm like, well, that's like insecurity talking a little bit. And I was just very upfront with him, because I really believe that even what makes a great Christ follower is somebody who can go to the Father, someone who can go to the Son, someone who can go to the Holy Spirit and ask questions. I can't tell you how many times I've been in situations where I've asked the Lord questions. And in me asking God questions wasn't the fact that I was questioning him. It was the fact that I wanted to go a little bit deeper. I wanted a greater understanding of what I was facing at that time. And what I want to teach you today in these next few minutes is how to master the right kind of environment so that you can lead by asking questions. The first thing you have to do is challenge existing assumptions. You got to challenge existing assumptions. At the end of the day, perfectionism is the enemy of change. You and I were never made to be perfect. I'm going to say that again. You and I were never made to be perfect. It doesn't mean we can't strive for perfection. It just means we will never be perfect. We serve a perfect God, and we are imperfect people. But it doesn't mean we can't strive for it, but it also doesn't mean we get down on ourselves because we're not it. Perfection is the enemy of change. It's impossible to improve something when we believe there's nothing wrong. Blind spots usually get us in trouble. This is why it's so important that great organizations know how to have a culture of asking questions, because, listen to me, it challenges existing assumptions. And when you have an organization that you are inviting questions to be asked, nobody's going to be walking around assuming things, because guess what? They know things. One of the reasons why so many people walk around with assumptions is because they have lack of clarity. They have lack of understanding. They're questioning not the person, they're questioning the process. And in having that kind of environment, listen, will get you past that. Number two, how can I lead with questions? Is I got to learn how to reframe the problem. I got to learn how to reframe the problem. There's a great story in Luke chapter 24. Jesus reappears, or he appears somewhat to some guys. And they just heard about all the news that Jesus died, and people were crying, people were upset. And the Bible says this in Luke chapter 24, verse 13. It says, and then that very day, two of them were going to the village called Emmaus. And we all know the story, the road to Emmaus, which was about 7 miles from Jerusalem. And they were talking with each other about all these things which had taken place. So they were talking about all these things. And where do you think they got their talking points from? They got it from everybody else. Everybody was talking about what had taken place. So it consumed the conversation of these two young boys. The Bible goes on to say, while they were talking and discussing it, Jesus himself came up and began to walk with them. You know the rest of the story. What Jesus does is he appears to them. They have no idea the person they're actually talking about is actually walking with them. What does Jesus do? He reframes the problem. What happened? They were discouraged. They were upset. They were mad. They were confused. All these problems that these people were talking about because of the death of Jesus. Yet the one that they were talking about appears to them. And what does he do? He reframes the problems. He allowed them to ask questions because that's the kind of Jesus we serve. Oftentimes when you saw Jesus with his disciples, he would allow them to ask questions. Why? Because at the end of the day, Jesus wasn't insecure. And I'm going to say this, the reason why most organizations don't have a culture of asking questions is because the leaders are insecure. The reality is that they see asking questions as a threat to their leadership, a threat to their position, rather than seeing it as the blessing so that people would walk with clarity and not assumption. People will walk with focus and listen, not be distracted. And this is what made Jesus a masterful leader. One of the things about brainstorming is that brainstorming questions help people dig deeper into a problem. And the way you brainstorm is you ask questions. One of the things that I love to do with our team, whether it is the Passionate Platform team or it is the Destiny Church team, is I love to start my meetings off with questions. And sometimes you have to understand as a leader, you're going to create some tension. And I truly believe the best way to stretch your people is to create what I call healthy tension. And you do that by starting off some of your meetings by asking some questions. And it's through asking questions that all of a sudden people begin to chime in. And what you're going to discover, ladies and gentlemen, is that you're going to discover that other people have great ideas and often they're better than yours. I can't begin to tell you how many times I would have made the wrong decision, or in some sense, I would have literally put something into motion that was probably a 6 compared to someone's 10 that made it phenomenal. And the way it came about was that I asked questions. And the one reason why I love asking questions in meeting is because you get to see what people are saying and what they're all about. You can see that some are problem solvers. You can see that some are creatives, but you will never get to that point if you do not create the culture of asking questions. Well, hey, if you're joining us, we are talking about how can you lead with questions on this Motivational Monday. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to come right back, but I got something I want to share with you, and I'll be right back. What's up, everybody? Obed here, and I am excited to announce to you for the first time what I have been doing the last 22 years, and that is coaching. I am absolutely passionate about taking people's potential and taking them to purpose. Most of you guys would know me as a pastor, but a lot of business leaders and leaders around the world know me as a coach. The thing that I love to coach people about is to become what I call an elite leader. It is a one-year program that has been proven over the last 22 years of taking people who are CEOs and making their companies more profitable to people who just had a dream and making that a reality. You say, but what entails in this coaching, Obed? It's 4 things. The first thing I take you through is what I call personal development. And once we establish what personal development is, then I move you into phase 2, which I call professional development. And all of a sudden, once we move out of phase 2, then we get to the nitty gritty, and I call that team development. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to lead a company or you're going to lead an organization, you're going to have to learn how to build teams. And then lastly, we teach you in phase 4 on how to build team performance. With personal development, professional development, team development, and team performance, we believe ultimately you become an elite leader. It is a one-year program dedicated to make you the best at what you do. And if you're interested, all you got to do is go to my website, obedmartinez.co, go to coaching and book a call, and one of my assistants will get back to you. Well, hey, let's get back to the podcast because I got something else to share with you. Well, hey, I hope you enjoyed that. Make sure you go to the website and make sure you sign up if you feel this is what you want to do. But hey, we are talking about how can you lead with questions. Number 1 is you got to challenge existing assumptions. Number 2, you got to reframe the problem. Number 3, you got to create a culture of curiosity. You have to create a culture of curiosity. Listen to me. Curiosity is the mother of innovation. Let me just say that again. Curiosity is the mother of innovation. When you create a culture of curiosity, listen, creatives thrive in an environment of curiosity. Why? Because curiosity is about challenging our daily reality. What others accept as normal, you turn it into a question. One of the things that we always do at Destiny, one of the things we do at the platform is we do this thing called challenging the process. We don't believe in challenging the person, but we do believe in challenging the process. And the way we challenge the process is by creating a culture of curiosity. We're questioning what at one time we were very sure of. And that's how you continue to grow. You're not changing your message, you're just changing the methods. Often I say it's better for you to break it than to wait and in some sense, break you. I see so many churches, I see so many businesses have and run with great ideas, and they will exhaust that idea until it finally breaks. I'm going to tell you, you be the one to break it before it's too late and it actually breaks you. This is why I truly believe that every single week in some of your meetings, you should do what I call challenging the process. What are we doing? We're raising a culture of curiosity. That idea that we've been running with the last 3 weeks with insurance or that last 3 weeks with some products we've been selling and some of the methods that we've been selling in and some of the sales a vocabulary that we've been using to sell it, we need to challenge those. Why? Because at the end of the day, they may have worked the last 3 weeks, but guess what? You continue to exhaust it, it's going to land up breaking you before you actually break it. And this is how you do it. Pastor, how do you do it? I do it by creating a culture of curiosity. Number 4, how can I lead with questions? I coach people to ask better questions. I coach people to ask better questions. As I stated before, Jesus was a master of not just asking questions to get things out of his disciples and the people, but he was also a master on asking questions. You remember the story, Jesus sitting with his disciples one day and he asks them this question, whom do men say that I am? And they responded, well, some say you're Jeremiah, some say you're Elijah. And then he looks at them and he says, well, who do you guys say that I am? And it was Simon Peter that said, you are the Christ. Here's what's startling about this whole scenario, that Jesus asked him the first question, who do you think people say that I am? And they say, you're Jeremiah, you're Elijah. So the reality was that Jesus asked that question so that he has an understanding of what people are saying about him outside these 12 disciples. Then he looked at the disciples and he says, who do you say that I am? And isn't it amazing that only 1 out of 12 actually identified who he was? Well, we all know it was the Holy Spirit, but I truly believe the reason Jesus was asking questions was because he was trying to get information out of them. So now that he steps outside of the 12, in his mind, he's looking at a crowd, and he's looking at the crowd of 5,000. He may be looking at the crowd of 4,000. He may be looking at the crowd at the Jordan River. And in his mind, he's thinking, wow, many of them may think that I'm Elijah. Many of them may think that I'm Jeremiah. It helps you hone in your message and deliver your message when you have an idea of what people think you are. And so at the end of the day, Jesus was a master at doing that. Matter of fact, throughout the New Testament in the Gospels, Jesus asked 10 questions. As I said, the first one was, who do you say that I am? The second question he often asked was, do you actually believe? Do you actually believe? The third question he asked was, do you want to get well? I mean, think about it. Here's a person that's sick, and Jesus asks them, do you want to get well? Why do you believe he was asking those questions? He was just trying to get faith out of that person. He then asked another question. Why are you so afraid? Why are you so afraid? Why was Jesus asking that question? Because he was trying to let that person know, if you don't identify the fear in your life and confront it, you will not be able to conquer it with the faith that I give you. Questions, listen, conquer situations that in some sense want to conquer us. He asked another question. Why do you doubt? Why do you doubt? I just don't believe Jesus asked that question to the person to see what kind of answer that person would give him. But I believe he wanted them to hear themselves of, this is why I doubt. He would then ask another question. Do you still not understand? I mean, he would have to repeat himself time and time again, but then he would finally ask them, do you still not understand? Why would he ask that question? He would ask that question because he needs to think to himself, do I actually need to continue to repeat what I'm saying so that they will finally get it? The next question Jesus asked, you remember the story with the woman with the issue of blood. He asked the question, who touched me? Who touched me? Friends, listen to me. Jesus was a master at leading by asking questions. You should encourage your team and challenge them when it comes to creating a culture by asking questions. Number 5, as we close on this Motivational Monday, you should use questions to encourage transparency. You should use questions to encourage transparency. One of the things I always say is that transparency is the currency of elevation. What people are looking for today is not just a confident leader, but they're looking for a transparent leader. Somebody that they know they can trust. See, the reality is that when we create this culture of questions, we begin to get the answers that could have taken us months to even years to get if we did not create a culture by leading them by asking questions. See, the one thing I always say is that what is everyone thinking, but no one is saying? What is everybody thinking, but no one is saying? Leader, let me speak to you. I want you to look to me in my eyes. Every time you walk into your office, anytime you walk into a Zoom call, everyone is thinking. Your job is to create a culture of questions so that the thinking goes to saying. You never want to walk away from a meeting with everybody still thinking and had no opportunity to say anything about it. Friends, I encourage you, be like Jesus and lead like Jesus. And one of the ways he did was that he led by asking questions. Well, hey, I'm excited about this coming Wednesday. I am going to be speaking to you about how to get the negative voices out of your head, because we all have them. Hey, as I always say, man, it is my job and my privilege and my greatest honor to bring you the best leadership content to grow your leadership to become the leader God has always called you to be. But it is your responsibility too, as well, as to share this content on all your platforms, and make sure you subscribe and you comment about how Life in Leadership Podcast has been a blessing to your life. So until Wednesday, I'll see you. I love you. Be blessed, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us today on the Obed Martinez Life and Leadership Podcast. If you would like to go deeper into today's teaching, you can do this by downloading the notes and the study guide at obedmartinez.co/notes. You can also sign up to get these sent directly to your inbox. But in the meantime, make sure you subscribe to this podcast, rate and review it on iTunes, and don't forget to share it with some friends on your social media. Once again, thank you for joining us weekly on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for Life and Leadership with Obed Martinez.